Hey, what's going on, all you comic book readers out there? This is Jacob Bartley for Comic Hero Talk, and this is the Comic Spoilers Talk podcast, where we do nothing but talk comics, and there might be a few spoilers here and there while we're talking about them, so that's why I title it Comic Spoilers Talk, because I don't want to ruin it for anyone who hasn't read the comics yet. So stop here if you have not read any of the comics that you want to read, and that mainly includes some Power Rangers comics, some Marvel, some DC, and some Star Wars comics. And today we definitely have one Power Rangers comic to review. We got some Marvel stuff, some Civil War II based stuff, and then we have a bunch of some of the Rebirth titles to talk about. Now, I have not done one of these podcasts in quite a bit. I think it's been a month, or almost, it's been 3 weeks or a month since I've put up a Comic Spoilers Talk podcast, and I don't want to make any excuses, but I do have a full-time job, and I also was in the middle of a move, so I was trying to make this podcast weekly, but I wasn't able to, so I'm going to try to do it weekly still, definitely bi-weekly, because I don't want to let too many comics pass me by, and I have let a few slip me by, so what I'm going to have to do is talk about the comics that have really caught my eye, the comics that I really want to talk about, that I've read in the past 2 to 3 weeks. So with that being said, let's get right into it. So first up, I want to get the Power Rangers comic out of the way, not that I think lesser of it, just because the rest, I have a bunch of Marvel and a bunch of DC, so I don't want this Power Rangers one to fall out and get overlooked by the other ones. But I do read Power Rangers comics. If you haven't been listening to this podcast or this YouTube channel, Power Rangers are a big thing for me. I was a huge fan growing up. I am currently rewatching the TV show and putting those reviews up. You can check out the first half of Season 1 review up on the channel right now. And I've been reading the current comic book line, which I'm loving so far. They've put out 5 issues for the main line, and then they have the Power Rangers Pink #1 and #2, I believe, just came out. So, yeah, Power Rangers have comics, therefore we can talk about them on here, and they are heroes. So, it fits for Comic Hero Talk, right? So, yeah, this week I'm going to be talking about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers #5. Now, this is somewhat of a prequel comic to the current storyline which has been going on. For those of you who have been reading the Power Rangers comic, you know that from issues 0 through 4, it follows Tommy Oliver joining the Power Rangers after his being hypnotized or controlled by Rita Repulsa. Now, in the TV show, this is the Green with Evil saga, so it pretty much takes place after the Green with Evil saga on the TV show. But this issue #5 goes back to, I believe it's a month or so before Tommy Oliver shows up to Angel Grove. And the synopsis, if you go read the synopsis online, it says, before Rita chose Tommy to be her Green Ranger, she had someone else in mind. And if you see the cover, it's obvious that she had Zach planned to be her Green Ranger. Now, first of all, I think you have to be a Power Rangers fan to appreciate these comics. And if you're a comic book reader, I think you will enjoy them as well. I really enjoyed this one. It actually might be my favorite so far, other than, the 0 issue was pretty dang good. And there was 1 or 2 issues that I really loved of the main line. But if you listen to my previous podcast, my main complaint with issues 0 through 4 is that it felt more like a Tommy Oliver Green Ranger comic than it did a Power Rangers team comic. And this one is before Tommy shows up, so he's not in it really. And it focuses more on the team and their struggles. Now, the reason I appreciate this comic run is that it deals with a lot more mature themes than TV show ever did. And one of these things is, in the beginning of this comic book, Jason, the Red Ranger, he does something heroic, and Zach eventually saves the day. And then, but the people around who see them save them are, oh, go Red Ranger, go Red Ranger. And Zach is like, really? I just saved everybody and you're cheering on Jason? Like, really? So he's not like extremely pissed, but he feels a little overlooked. And Rita obviously watches them all the time, and she sees this, so she tries to persuade him to be her Green Ranger, and obviously he doesn't do it. And yeah, and I really enjoyed this issue because it felt more like a team-up Power Rangers comic book than a comic book about Tommy Oliver. Well, don't get me wrong, obviously I love the Green Ranger. Who doesn't if they're a Power Rangers fan? But I like to see this dynamic between the original 5 characters, and I kind of wish the comic series picked up with them before Tommy Oliver showed up, but I get it. The Green Ranger is arguably the most popular Ranger among the Mighty Morphin, so you want to capitalize on that popularity and get people in and get Power Rangers fans to want to read this, so I get it. But for me, I enjoyed this issue number 5 so much because he wasn't the focal point of it. So there you go. If you are a Power Rangers fan, or if you have been reading these issues, I really recommend picking up Mighty Morphin Power Rangers number 5. Alright, now to talk about the juicy stuff. So, in my hiatus of doing the Comic Spoilers Talk podcast, I was not able to review Civil War 2 issue number 3. Now, you know this is a spoilers podcast, so I'm about to spoil something huge. So, Bruce Banner, the Hulk, dies in this comic book. And I predicted it because I read the synopsis sometimes, which I'm going to stop trying to do because it kind of ruins it for me. But you see the synopsis, and then you see where issue 2 ended with Captain Marvel showing up at Bruce Banner's facility, and then the cover has Bruce Banner on there. So, those of you who have been following Civil War 2 know that the Inhuman Ulysses can predict the future, and he predicted that Bruce Banner the Hulk was going to rage out and kill some of the Avengers and some of the other characters in the Marvel Universe. So, Captain Marvel, being hard-headed as she is, which I love Captain Marvel. I'm not on anyone's side on this Civil War 2 issue, by the way. I can't choose. I tend to agree with Tony Stark more. I do. But I've become such a huge fan of Captain Marvel that I can't help but root for her too. So there's rights to both sides, just like any conflict, really. But, man, even though I predicted Bruce Banner dying, I did not think it was going to impact me as much as it did. It was big. It was so powerful, the way it happened, and the repercussions and who did it, Hawkeye, and how he's on trial. And then, yeah, so I loved the Civil War 2 issue number 3. And then this week, Civil War 2 issue number 4 came out. And while I didn't love it as much as issue number 3, I really enjoyed it because it's dealing with the repercussions of Bruce Banner's death and what it means in this whole conflict. And Tony Stark and Captain Marvel are butting heads even more so. And the way this one ends with both teams confronting each other, and Iron Man has a squad with him. He has a squad. And Captain Marvel has a squad too, but she's kind of undermanned. And then Tony Stark even says, "You're a little overpowered here, aren't you?" And she says, "I have friends everywhere." And the Guardians of the Galaxy show up. Now, you might think initially, the Guardians of the Galaxy, they are a pretty powerful group, but not really. But Venom is in the Guardians, and the Thing, and a few other characters. So it's not just your Star-Lord and Groot and Rocket Raccoon and Gamora and Drax. It's Venom and the Thing and a couple other characters that I'm not exactly sure who they are. But yeah, that moment was maybe the coolest moment in the whole Civil War 2 series. I posted on the Instagram account, Comic Hero Talk. Check it out. Instagram, Comic Hero Talk. This is my favorite thing in comics going on right now. Civil War 2, the storyline. I love it. If you are a comic book fan, or if you're just a superhero fan, check out the whole Civil War 2 line. It's amazing, and it looks beautiful. So tying into Civil War 2 are the next 2 comics I'm going to talk about, and the first one is Captain Marvel number 7. Now, for those of you who have been listening to this YouTube channel, I've become a huge Captain Marvel fan recently. Carol Danvers, I'm loving her. And the reason that got me interested is because I know the movie's coming out, I believe in 2019, and the character is coming to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and whoopee! They just cast Brie Larson. It's official. Brie Larson is Captain Marvel, and that was my prediction over 6 months ago. When I heard the rumor, I absolutely wanted it to happen, and they officially announced it at Comic-Con, so yippee, Brie Larson as Captain Marvel. But the reason I love this character so much is because of this current comic book run right now. She's such a badass. I love that Marvel's putting her in the forefront, and they're making her their iconic superhero, a woman superhero. She's never going to be as popular as Wonder Woman. No superhero is. Not even many male superheroes are as popular or iconic as Wonder Woman. Maybe only Batman and Superman and maybe Spider-Man. But, wow. Marvel is doing a great job of putting Captain Marvel in the forefront, making her lead the opposing side against Iron Man in Civil War 2. And I've loved most of the issues of her current run. I really like this one because it's dealing with the more political aspect. You know, the people who have reading know she's the leader of Alpha Flight, and there's a committee that rules Alpha Flight, and she's kind of on trial with them right now because they find out that she's been hiding Ulysses from them, not telling them about him. So Captain Marvel is kind of on the verge of probably getting arrested, kicked out of Alpha Flight, but she convinces the committee to allow her to assemble a new team to act upon Ulysses' visions eventually. So I loved it. It's more political, less action than the actual Civil War II lines, but overall I am digging it so much. And the next thing I'm going to talk about ties into Civil War II, but it came out 2 or 3 weeks ago, and that is Kingpin #1. Now I wanted to talk about this because it's a Kingpin comic, and the one thing is that the cover and the way they kind of marketed this comic, and they had a tagline that said, "While the heroes fight each other, the villains rise." I was under the impression that Kingpin was going to grab like Green Goblin and Doctor Doom and all these prominent villains and like kind of work together to kind of build a villain rise in the Marvel comic universe. And the cover has dozens of villains on it, but the comic is not about that. It's more about Kingpin. And I overall, I really liked it. I think it's an important read if you're liking the whole Civil War II storyline in general, because it shows a more darker, gritty side of the universe, but it also shows what type of things people can take advantage of when the heroes are distracted. So there's something really cool that ties into Civil War II. I don't want to get too much in depth, but there's an Inhuman who the Ulysses' visions cannot predict what he's going to do, and Kingpin forms an alliance with this Inhuman. So that is big. If this character is the only character in the Marvel Universe that cannot be predicted by Ulysses, Kingpin is going to be very powerful. So look out for that. For that reason alone, I'm loving Kingpin #1, and I'm going to keep reading it when the next issue comes out. So moving from Marvel to DC. Now, as you know, the DC Rebirth line, in my opinion, is killing it right now. And at first I was reading everything. At first I was reading everything from Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Arrow, trying to pick up every issue that comes out, but I've had to cut it down because I cannot afford, nor do I have the time to read everything. If I podcast if I got paid to podcast and this was all I did, I would read everything. I would read everything, but I can't. So I kind of cut my reading down to a few things. So this is what I'm for sure reading in the Rebirth line. That is the Wonder Woman Rebirth line, the Green Lanterns Rebirth line, the Justice League because it's the Justice League, and then Batman. Now I've read 2 new ones recently, and that is Nightwing and Hal Jordan Green Lantern, Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps, and I might keep reading those. We'll see, but I'm for sure reading Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lanterns, and Justice League. So I want to talk about issues number 2 and 3 of Wonder Woman. Now, if you've been reading this, you know they're splitting the stories up in 2. So the first issue dealt with her like in the current story, what's going on. She's trying to figure out her origin. She can't get back to Themyscira, and she can't get in connection with anybody. And then the number 2 is kind of retelling her origin story. Now, so issue number 2, it retells her origin story kind of. You know, you get Steve Trevor washing up on Themyscira and all of that. And for me, this is my first time reading it on page, so I really liked it. I'm advocating Wonder Woman. I think she's an amazing character, and I'm trying to. The reason I'm reading Captain Marvel and Wonder Woman is I'm trying to support female superheroes. I think it's very important, and if I can support them by buying the comics and reading them and talking about them and spreading the word and positive word of mouth, that's why I'm reading these Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel, and also I'm really enjoy them. So yeah, number 2 was cool for me. I liked it a lot because this is my first time actually reading Wonder Woman's origin. And then number 3, I just read it. This might be one of the best looking comics I've ever read. And keep in mind, I'm a new comic book reader, but this, man, the way Barbara Ann, the cheetah looks incredible. Even on the cover, if you just look at it, it looks beautiful. I absolutely love it. And man, I'm liking the story. I'm confused kind of because I don't know much about Cheetah or Barbara Ann, but beautifully drawn, and just the storyline of her trying to figure out how to get back to Themyscira and all that. And there's a little side story with Steve Trevor that's going to tie in with the Cheetah thing. I like it a lot. I definitely recommend reading the Wonder Woman Rebirth. It looks beautiful and it's a good read as well. Now, on to my next DC comic, and that is Green Lanterns. I'm doing issues 2 and 3 right now, and 3 is, I believe it's just came out this week, and then 2 came out a few weeks ago. There's a reason why I'm reading this Green Lanterns. I could have easily dropped this because, like I said, money and time, but I have to keep reading it because, like I said, I'm an advocate for female superheroes. So one half of this Green Lanterns comic is about Jessica Cruz, and I'm really liking her character. I loved her character from the Rebirth issue. Simon Baz I didn't love him at first. I didn't like him at first, but he's grown on me. Now I like him a lot because in the issue number 3, you got a lot of his narrative and what's going on with him, and he comes off as a douche all the time, but you kind of get to see a more personable side of him, and I really enjoyed that in Green Lanterns number 3. And Green Lanterns number 2, it actually made me appreciate the Red Lanterns more, because when they first introduced this storyline, I was like, I don't really care about the Red Lanterns. I don't like that they're going in that direction. But the leader, man, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but the leader of the Red Lanterns, he's not just a twirling mustache villain, I want to destroy the world. He has motivation as to why, and all his Green Lantern Corps, they're like ugly creatures and criminals and looking like bad people, but he says, the universe has abandoned these individuals, I will not. And that line alone made me really appreciate where he's coming from. Although I'm still rooting for the Green Lanterns, I don't want the bad guys to win, but I appreciate where he's coming from, and he's not just a one-note villain. So that's why I really like issue number 2. Issue number 3 made me really like Simon Baz, but there's something that happened at the end. So at the end of the issue number 3, Jessica Cruz caught the rage, and now she's influenced by the rage. She's about to fight Simon Baz. I don't like mind control or anything like that, especially with my main characters, but whatever. We're going to see them fight probably in issue number 4, which should be cool. But overall, I am loving Green Lanterns Rebirth. So pick that up if you're a fan of the Green Lantern Corps in general. If you want to see a badass Green Lantern woman character, which I'm hoping eventually they can bring her into the movies because they're making a Green Lantern Corps movie. Why not have a female Green Lantern from Earth? I think that would be very smart and very awesome on DC's part. Now, sticking with Green Lantern, I want to talk about the Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps Rebirth. I know issue number 1 came out this week. I have not picked it up yet. Not sure if I am. I want to, but like I said earlier, money and time is in a shortage. So, yeah, I did like it a lot because he's not just protecting Earth anymore. He's leading the Green Lantern Corps, and in this issue, he's kind of off somewhere, and he's not in contact with anyone, and nobody knows where he is, and he has to create his own ring, which is badass, and it's something that said couldn't be done, but he did it. And overall, I did like it a lot. I want to know more about Hal Jordan. I'm a comic book reader, and I've never really read much at all, and not much Green Lantern. And I know, and he crosses over with the Green Lanterns comic a lot, so I want to keep reading this. I might just do it because I'm really intrigued with the whole Green Lantern Corps as a whole. So overall, I did like it. If you are a Hal Jordan fan, if you are a Green Lantern fan, I would read it for sure. Another Rebirth title that came out, something I was really interested in, is Nightwing. Now, one thing I really wanted to do, like I said, is read female comic book superheroes, and also read, like, I don't want to say Nightwing is a B character, but he's not a Batman or a Superman or a Wonder Woman or even a Green Lantern. He's a side character, and I do want to read up on these side characters because I don't know as much about them as I do a Batman or a Superman. So I wanted to pick up Nightwing. I did like it a lot because you see Dick Grayson and Damian Wayne, they have this relationship, this friendship, and it's really cool to see that. It's cool to see Nightwing out of Batman's shadows, but still part of the Bat family, still has Batman to look out for him, just overall in general. And I did like Nightwing a lot. He has his own little storyline going on. He's taking on I forget the group he's taking on, but there's this group, this organization in the comic book that wants him to, the their soldiers, and then the leader of the group gets killed, I believe, and then someone else takes over. But yeah, it's basically going to be him going up against that group. I'm probably going to pick up the next issue because, like I said, I want to read up on side characters, and I'm really intrigued with Nightwing. I think Nightwing could work in the movie universe. Like, if they're not going to bring Batman and Robin into the movie universe, but an older ex-Robin, now Dick Grayson Nightwing, that could really work in the movies. So I will probably keep reading it because I want to know as much as possible about Nightwing. Now, going from Nightwing to Batman, man, it's hard. I want to say that Wonder Woman is my favorite Rebirth line so far, but Batman's up there, Green Lanterns is up there, but I'm loving all three. I have to keep reading them, so I'm really digging the Batman storyline. And let me know in the comment section if you do know this, but are Gotham and Gotham Girl, these two characters that are involved in this storyline, are they brand new characters? Were they created for these issues? I'm wondering because I've never heard of them before, but I'm really liking them. I'm curious to see how they get their powers. Now, we get some hints on their story. Now, issue number 3 is where we get a little bit of background on Gotham and Gotham Girl, and you get their real names, you get to meet their parents, their brother and sister. And they were out in another country, and that's where they supposedly obtained their powers. And I'm really liking this issue because now you have two superpowered beings in Gotham to protect Gotham and team up with Batman. And now he has his own little crew in Gotham. And I'm really liking that. He doesn't need Superman to come save him. He has these two superpowered beings, and he's kind of mentoring them. And the male character really looks up to them because Batman saved him and his parents a while ago. And it's really cool to see that dynamic, how Batman has inspired younger people and someone went out of their way to get powers, I'm assuming, to protect Gotham and the city. So overall, I'm loving it because it's Batman, first of all, and he did some badass things. I'll never forget issue number 1 where he controlled a plane. He got on top of a plane, hooked some ropes to it, and was controlling the plane to make it land safely. Like, what the hell? That's badass. But just overall, my main thing with it is I'm interested in Gotham and Gotham Girl and how Batman is going to kind of train them and get them ready to be true superheroes. All right, to wrap up this episode of Comic Spoilers Talk, I'm going to talk about Justice League Rebirth issue number 1. So this is actually Justice League number 1 under the Rebirth line. There was a Rebirth issue. I've talked about it yet, but I really like the Rebirth. I really like the issue number 1. I don't love them. I don't think they're great reads, but I have to read them because it's the Justice League. It's all these characters together. Now, it sucks because I kind of dropped reading the Aquaman and the Flash comic books and even Superman not because I don't want to. I really like them, but like I said earlier, time and money. But reading the Justice League makes me want to go read their individual stories. But at least I get them in this Justice League comic book, and that's the main reason, is because so I get a dose of all these characters, so I'm not missing out on them completely. I get to see them in some capacity, so I really do enjoy Justice League. The one thing with Justice League, or even like Avengers comic books, is that like the scale is so big because you have all these heroes fighting together, so there has to be some large threat for them all to take on together at once, and sometimes that gets a little old, like huge world-destroying events. And I don't know, but I guess you can't have them fighting lesser situations because it's unnecessary for them all to be there. But overall, I love the interactions with the characters. I love seeing the powers being used simultaneously. It's Justice League. Come on now. And I love that Justice League trailer, by the way. So we'll get to see some of that in live action pretty dang soon. Well, kind of rushed through that, but that's going to do it for Comic Spoilers Talk this week. I'm missing some Star Wars comics this week. That's what's missing. I don't think I ever reviewed Han Solo number 2. Let's just do that real quick. Han Solo number 2. Love the Han Solo line right now. It's really awesome. He's in the middle of a race called the Dragon Flare. What is it? The Dragon Race? Something like that. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I don't know. But yeah, go read Han Solo issues number 1 and 2. You get to see him in the Millennium Falcon and Chewie in the middle of a freaking race, a dangerous race at that. And go read Poe Dameron. I read the issue number 1. I have issue number 2. Haven't read it yet, but read Poe Dameron. It's really awesome. Well, had to throw some Star Wars in there for you because my main 4 things: Power Rangers, DC, Marvel, and Star Wars. My loves. Yeah, that's going to wrap it up. I am Jacob Bartley for Comic Hero Talk. Thank you all for listening. I'm going to try to get some guests on here pretty soon. I know it can get tiring just to listen to one person talk about comics, but I want to get some conversations going. So I'm going to maybe ask some people from the comic book store or ask some of my buddies who have read some of the same issues to get on pretty soon. So keep an ear out for that. And check me out on Twitter at @JacobBartley_. Check out the Comic Hero Talk Instagram page. I just recently created that. I'm going to try to post at least one post every day regarding geek culture or comics or movies or TV, anything that has to do with the stuff that I'm talking about. So Comic Hero Talk on Instagram. Please check it out and hit subscribe on this YouTube channel if you really like talking about superheroes. I recommend that. Hit me up in the comment section. Give me a like. Really appreciate it. Give me a dislike if you want. Got a few of those. What's up with that, man? Anyways, thank you all for listening. Until next time, take care.